have a terrific program tonight and wonderful speakers. So I just will tell you, sit back, have some of those coffee candies. That will keep me awake too tonight, but I don't think we'll need that because we're going to have a very lively discussion. So again, thank you so much and happy Thanksgiving, everybody. So without further ado, I'll take it over. Marcia Kingman will now speak and introduce.
Thank you. Yeah. Please join me in welcoming to our panel 4 women who work every day to help Montgomery County be a welcoming community for immigrants. 3 of our panelists are from the county's Office of Community Partnerships. The mission of Community Partnerships is to strengthen relationships between the county government and the residents it serves, with special focus on underserved and emerging communities and our neighbors in need. One of the ways that Community Partnerships accomplishes its mission is through liaisons with these emerging, often immigrant communities. So tonight, we have 3 of the liaisons from the Office of Community Partnerships. First of all, Claudia Canales is the Latino liaison. Claudia began her work in Montgomery County in 2007 and served as a bilingual administration assistant to County Executive Leggett. Claudia co-founded the Montgomery County Executive Hispanic Gala to support minority professionals and students with scholarships. During her tenure, the organization awarded 60 scholarships in 2014 and 77 scholarships in 2015. Yeah. Claudia will be our moderator. Next is Diane Vu. Diane is the Asian Pacific American liaison. Diane is the daughter of Vietnamese refugees, and in her early career, she served as executive director of the Maryland Vietnamese Mutual Association. If you have the opportunity, I invite you to go to the Aspen Institute's website, and you will see Diane. She didn't know I was going to tell her. There's a video, What Every American Should Know, and she's a part of that presentation. She does a beautiful job. Diane has also been an important part of the citizenship initiative that the League partners with. And because she is so energetic, efficient, and effective, Mark Elrich has chosen her, along with Claudia, to be a part of the transition team. And they are doing the work of the listening sessions. I happened to go to the one in Germantown on Saturday, and they did a beautiful job at that session. So I encourage you to go. Next to Diane is Maya Zegarra. Maya is a supervising attorney for Ayuda. Ayuda and Maya intersect with the Office of Community Partnerships because Ayuda is one of the nonprofits that provides legal assistance to immigrants. And Community Partnerships sponsors, is that right? Do you sponsor that program?
It works with partners.
Okay, they partner with different nonprofit associations to provide pro bono and low-cost legal services to immigrants. Maya was born and raised in Lima, Peru. She is a first-generation immigrant who knows firsthand the difficulties of the immigration process, and she is now working as a lawyer to create a better situation for immigrants who need legal assistance. Maya is president-elect of the Maryland Hispanic Bar Association and she received the 2018 Pro Bono Award by the Maryland State Bar Association. Last on the panel is Mimi Hassanien, who is the Middle Eastern Community Liaison for Community Partnerships. And she's also a member of the League of Women Voters.
Yes, and I love it.
Mimi grew up in Cairo, Egypt, and has lived in Montgomery County for more than 40 years, where she has been a tireless community activist. Although Mimi has made countless contributions to our local community schools and government, I want to highlight her commitment to empowering women, especially women from diverse backgrounds. She has served as board member of Empowered Women International and the Muslim Women's Association. That's all I'm going to tell you about these women. I could go on and on and on because they've made so many contributions. But I know that as you listen to them tonight, you'll see the depth of their commitment and honor what they bring to our community. So, Claudia, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you so much. We're so happy to be here with you guys tonight and share a little bit of what we do for each of our communities. As you know, it's really important to support diversity in Montgomery County and make sure that everybody's welcome. I'm gonna, each of the panelists is gonna speak for 15 minutes, and then at the end, 10. For 10 minutes, and at the end of their time, we're going to have Q&A, and I think what we're going to do is have people come up to the mic and ask the questions that you want to ask the panelists, and we'll take it from there.
Excuse me. I've tried to do something about the heat. I know people are cold, but they've told us it's a problem. Okay, I will make a note. Okay.
I think we know some people.
Yeah.
I know somebody. All right, so we're going to start with Diane, and then we're going to move down the table.
Great, thank you. Well, good evening.
Good evening.
What a great response. And normally I just get a couple folks to say good evening. So it seems like you all are very excited to be here as much as I am. So thank you for having me. Oh, okay, can you hear me better now? Okay, thank you. So good evening. As Marcia mentioned, my name is Diane Vu. I'm the Asian liaison for the Office of Community Partnerships. But I wear several hats. I am also the staff lead for the county executive's current county executive, Like Citizenship Initiative, and I am also the staff lead for the county's Legal Immigration Service Provider Network. So that is why I'm sitting in front of you today, kind of just to give you a framework of the county's work around our welcoming policies and immigrant integration policies, and then the other folks are going to talk about the specific work that they do around immigrant integration. So as you all know, Montgomery County is one of the most diverse communities in the entire world, right? We all know that. 53% of our population is non-white, and out of that, roughly a third is Black. Black being African American, Caribbean, and African, Afro-Latina, and everyone else who identifies as Black. So Black is a very broad term. A third Latino, also very diverse in communities there, and a third Asian, also very diverse in communities there as well, right? So it is because of this that our policies when it comes to immigrant integration, housing, transportation, continue to serve on a national and international platform, because the idea is if it works in Montgomery County, it is going to be used as a best practice somewhere else. Truly, I travel the world very often, and one of the things that I'm most proudest of is how diverse our community is. And diverse, not segregated, because if you go to some other communities that are diverse, the communities tend to stay within their own communities. But in Montgomery County, I mean, just look around in this room and the listening session that was in Up County on Saturday, it is incredibly diverse. So we're very proud of that. So out of our foreign-born population, about a third of our population is foreign-born, and 43% come from a migration background, meaning one or both parents came from a different country of origin. So those are really high numbers, right? And out of the foreign-born population, El Salvador is the #1 country of origin, and actually we have the largest concentration of Salvadorans outside of El Salvador in the entire world. Yeah, many of you did not know that. Followed by China, India, Ethiopia, and Korea. And we have 4 out of the top 10 nations. We have 4 out of the top 10 diverse communities in the entire nation right here in Montgomery County, right? So it truly is a really diverse county. So because of how multicultural and multilingual our communities are, County Executive Ike Leggett has made it his priority to create one of the most welcoming communities in the nation. So over the past 12 years, he's done everything from creating strong language access policies to supporting legal serving organizations, to implementing citizenship initiative, and to building up the Gilchrist Immigrant Resource Center. How many of you are familiar with our Gilchrist Immigrant Resource Center? A number of you. Okay, great. So for those of you who don't know, it is a one-stop shop for new residents to the county who are looking for services. So they can go to one of the Gilchrist Center sites and get everything from computer classes, English classes, financial literacy courses, or referrals to legal service providers. So if the Gilchrist Center doesn't provide the service there, they can refer folks out to a really strong network of nonprofit organizations. As you all know, Montgomery County is really rich in our resources. And so the Gilchrist Center has a great network of referral services for people who are looking for services. So fast forward to post new administration last year, where there were very rapid changes happening on a federal level with immigration policies that directly affected our communities here. So our office, along with the Gilchrist Immigrant Resource Center, kind of took a lead on building the capacity of nonprofit organizations to be able to serve our communities for several purposes. One is to get out information that is up to date on immigration policies and to give folks resources. So people are asking, well, what is the current policy on DACA or TPS, right? We want to create a bank where folks can go to get that kind of information, and they can go to the Gilchrist Center and we have up-to-date information on immigration policies. The second question that folks are asking are, well, with these changing policies, where can I go to get services? Or where can my neighbor go to get services? Or where can my friend's mother go to get services, right? They can also go to the Gilchrist Center website and they can pull up a legal resource service provider directory that contains a network of about 20 to 25 nonprofit organizations that provide legal, immigration, and citizenship services in the county for low-income residents. It includes very specific information, client intake hours, how much it costs, languages that are spoken at those organizations. So it's a really great resource for you to have if you're out there referring folks, and for our nonprofit providers to have as well. Because we know that in this age, there is a higher chance of fraud happening, and so we really need to protect our residents and say, this is where you go for trusted legal advice. Oh, okay, great. Outside of the Gilchrist Immigrant Resource Center, we also implemented a countywide citizenship initiative. We know that today there are approximately 60,000 legal permanent residents who are eligible to naturalize. 60,000, right? So what better way to protect your rights than to become a citizen, right? So we launched this countywide campaign that gets out information to residents about the citizenship process, And so we've partnered with the libraries, with the Gilchrist Center, to implement citizenship corners at our libraries so that folks can go to these centers and corners and get information in their languages on how to become a citizen. We have increased the capacity of our citizenship providers network so that they are increasing the number of workshops that we're doing in the county, increasing the intakes that they're doing, and putting out as much information as possible. We're partnering with the libraries to do citizenship workshops at the libraries as well. So we're really full court press on the citizenship initiative. And additionally, I mentioned that we have a legal immigration service provider network as well. The purpose of that coalition is to share resources with each other so that we are getting out information to folks, and also so that the organizations are collaborating on workshops, sharing information with one another, so that any resources that the county is providing to the networks, we're not trying to duplicate services here, right? We're trying to build a very strong network of folks who can refer residents in and out to each other, and also to serve as advocates, right? Because they want to be able to ensure that they are getting the resources that they need to provide the services, because they are getting inundated with requests. So those are, I know that's a lot, but I just breezed through everything that we're doing. That's just kind of the quick overview of our policies and the services that we're providing and our role as the county. Oh yeah, well, see, I'm effective, like Marsha said. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to one of our greatest partners. She's fantastic in addition to working at Ayuda and one of our partners.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Marsha, and thank you to the League of Women Voters of Montgomery County for having me here and for this great opportunity to talk to you guys and be a member of this awesome panel. As Marsha mentioned, my name is Zegarra. I was born and raised in Lima, Peru, so if you notice an accent, you know, that's where it's coming from. I grew up in Peru in a time of extreme terrorism. You guys may have heard the name of the Shining Path. That was extreme active when I was growing up, so because of that, I'm very passionate about helping people who don't have a voice, and because of that I became an attorney, and because I moved here with my family, I became passionate about immigration law. So I work at a nonprofit called Ayuda, who you guys may have heard of. We are based in DC, but actually with some great funding and support from Montgomery County, we're excited to be opening an office here in Montgomery County early next year. So that's exciting. Part of the services that we provide, so we believe in holistic approach to services to low-income individuals and families in our community. We service individuals in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. We provide language access services, domestic violence, services to victims of domestic violence, family law, social services, immigration legal services, and everything is as a holistic approach to our clients. So I will talk briefly about the types of immigration status, just to make sure we have some vocabulary going from the get-go. As you guys may know, there's different classes of immigration status here. We have somebody who is a U.S. citizen who could have been born here or may have been somebody who naturalized. We have somebody who is a lawful permanent resident, which is also known as a green card holder. We have somebody that could be a visa holder, meaning they have applied to visit the U.S. or to come here and work in the U.S. And an immigrant, the terminology that we like to use, it could be an immigrant who's coming here with the intent to immigrate to the United States, or a non-immigrant who just comes here as a visitor, for example. And also we have a term often for us, undocumented individuals who are here, who may have entered with a visa, but maybe stayed a bit longer, or may have entered without a visa and are here in the United States. So that's just some terminology I wanted to get out there. So we often see a lot of barriers to people seeking help by immigrant crime survivors. Most of our clients have been survivors of domestic violence, of other types of crimes, immigration legal services fraud, for example. And we see that a lot of our clients face a lot of barriers. Some of these barriers are lack of knowledge and misinformation regarding the U.S. legal system. They are afraid of the police and the judicial system. They're afraid of deportation. They're afraid of the social services and the child welfare agencies that may be out there for them to help. And a lot of these fears come really from their own communities and from their own experiences in their countries of origin. And also because of, the U.S. environment or whatever they may see on TV or whatever they may hear. Another big barrier to seeking assistance for some crime survivors are language access. Unfortunately, a lot of our immigrant neighbors don't find information easily accessible in their languages. And there's information that are not pretty much accessible to limited English proficient individuals. They face discrimination in the news because of our political climate, in the media, for example. They have a lot of economic and employment challenges, and they may also feel isolated from their family and communities. And also I want to also give you a brief landscape of immigration legal services. So in immigration law is a bit different than state law, for example. There is a right to be represented in immigration courts. It's called immigration courts. It's called the Executive Office of Immigration Review, which you have the right to be represented. However, that is not at the government's expense. That means you need to provide yourself with an attorney. That also means that regardless of your age, you could be 1 day old, or you could be in deportation or in detention. In a detention facility, you still need to get yourself an attorney. There's limited funding for low bono representation or low bono services. And the application fees for some of the immigration reliefs or from some of the immigration forms are also very high. There is a lot of private or nonprofit practitioners have a very heavy caseload, and there's not enough of us, unfortunately, to meet the need and to keep the cost down. Therefore, a lot of immigrants seeking representation may ask non-attorneys, tax preparers, multi-services centers for assistance on their immigration services. But actually, who is legally able to provide immigration legal services? This is actually very important, and this is something that unfortunately I see a lot on my day-to-day work. A lot of immigrants are being defrauded because of all these barriers by individuals who are not authorized to practice immigration law or law, period. The only people who are able or authorized to practice immigration law or provide immigration legal services are attorneys licensed in the United States, or accredited representatives that work in partnership or work for an accredited organization by the Department of Justice. Also, law students that work in supervision from law professor in a clinic setting at a university are able to provide immigration representation. So what can we do, or what has been done for immigrant survivors of crime? Luckily, Congress have created several immigration protection for immigrant crime survivors. Specifically for domestic violence survivors, from survivors of sexual assault, for survivors of human trafficking, and this has been enacted in the Violence Against Women Act, referred also as VAWA, and the Trafficking Victims Prevention Act, the TVPA. This was a bipartisan way that Congress created to express and recognize that abusers often exploit victims' lack of immigration status, as a tactic to continue this abuse. This also includes, these both acts also include several important confidentiality protections for immigration or immigrant survivors of crime. So I will briefly mention some of the forms of immigration relief that are available for immigrant crime survivors. We have the petition for a spouse or children of U.S. citizen or lawful permanent residents who have been abused by their U.S. citizen spouses or parents or legal permanent resident parents. We have also protection for battered spouse women or battered spouses. We also have something that's called a U visa, which is a special type of protection and visa for certain victims of certain crimes who have been physically abused, mentally harmed, and who have cooperated or who've cooperated and continue to cooperate with police officer or with the investigation of the crime. And it's important to take note that there's only 10,000, there's an annual limit of only 10,000 U visas per year for the entire United States. There's also something called a T visa, which is a visa for trafficking victims. Okay. So there's several other visas or immigration forms of relief for crime victims.
Thank you. So we got a timekeeper here. It's a great honor to work with this great panels here, so I'm so proud. Thank you, Marcia, for inviting me to speak, and thank you for Legal Women. When I heard about it from Diane, I fell in love with it, and I signed up, and I'm here with you. I'm gonna talk about my role. Well, first of all, I immigrated here 48 years ago, and I have 3 children and 15 grandchildren. So I am here to stay. So my challenge as an immigrant person who came here did not speak a word of English. It wasn't just my ethnicity. You've heard about the Latino community, the African American, the Asian community, the white, and I did not fit in any of those categories, so when we used to have those cards and you have to check your race, I didn't find myself. I said, where do I belong, right? So I used to have, you say have other, and I used to say Arab American, and I said, maybe, hopefully, we will have an Arab American later on, or some Middle Eastern or something that I can identify with. So I was struggling with my identity as a Muslim, because that's my religion, and my identity as an Arab. As I mentioned, I did not speak a word of English when I came here, but I wanted to learn about my new home. I wanted to learn about my new country. You've heard so many, resources and what we're doing with immigrant people, but I wanted to share with you my story as an immigrant. So when you meet an immigrant person, don't be shy to ask them questions. Don't be shy to ask them anything, because we are so happy to tell you about who we are. I would love for someone to say, what's this? By the way, Diane said she wears so many hats. When I say I wear so many scarves. So Saying I wear so many scarves, I serve on so many boards and commissions. I serve on the board of Leadership Montgomery, I serve on the board of Sandy Spring Museum, I serve on the board of Hospice Montgomery, and I serve on the board of Emerge Maryland. So, and I didn't gain all that by just sitting home. Marsha said, I'm all about empowering women. Yes, I am. Because most of the people think Muslim women are oppressed, we're not educated, because you have the stereotype about what you see in the media. You know, those women covered with black and, you know, we don't do anything. That's wrong. You know, in our religion, women are high, in very high position. God, you know, there's a verses in the Quran, it says the heaven under the feet of the mother. So, you know, my kids listen to me, my husband listen to me. I may walk behind my husband in the street, but he walks behind me at home. So we are so powerful. It's just that the difference between the religion and the culture. So in Islam and our religion, women have so many rights. I have the right to inherit money. You know, when they said a woman don't work, yeah, I don't need to work. Why I don't need to work? Because my husband is supposed to take care of me. If I have money of my own, if I inherit money, or if I'm working, that is my money. He's not supposed to touch it. So, and then if my son die, or my uncles die, my father die, in my Quran, in my religion, I can inherit money. So here is a free income coming to me, right? So there is custody for the children. It goes to the mother. So there is so many rights in the Quran that it favors the woman. But unfortunately, our government doesn't do it. Look at Saudi Arabia and how they treat women over there. So there is a difference between Muslim women's right in the Quran versus the culture. And I would encourage you now, everybody can read the Quran and what is it, the Google and all that stuff. So you can Google all that stuff and find out. But I also wanted to share my story about when I immigrated here and did not speak a word of English. So how do you think an immigrant person who does not speak, how do we communicate? So for me, it was like when I go grocery shopping, I would look what is in the box. Like if it's rice in the box, there is rice. If there is pasta in the box, this is how I go shopping. So I just got married when I got here, and I have guests coming to congratulate me, and my Egyptian friend who is my mentor. You know, you always go to someone who is from your community to tell you. And she said, Mimi, oh, God bless America. Everything here is very fast, very easy. We don't have to cook from scratch. Everything comes in box ready. I said, hallelujah, that's God bless America, right? So I have guests coming to congratulate us, and she said, oh, you don't need to bake a cake. You just go to the store, get a cake mix in a box, and you bring it home, put it in a pan, put 2 eggs, and put 2 oil, and just put it in the oven for half an hour. You'll have a delicious cake. I said, oh, yes, great. So I said, oh, I'm sitting. I don't have to, make my cake from scratch. And I went to the store looking for a cake mix that it looks nice. And I wanted to get the biscuit cake. So I looked and I saw this box. It has cherry in the middle and pineapple, a big pineapple. I said, oh, this is going to be a good cake. So I grabbed the box. I go home. I follow the instructions my friend told me. And then I put the mix in the pan. I only have, 5 minutes? Okay, I put the mix in the pan, and then, your instant come, right? I said, I baked cake before. That doesn't look like it's going to be a big cake. I said, well, this is America. Maybe it will grow in the oven. So I put the pan in the oven, and maybe 10 seconds, and it's burning. Can you guess what did I pick? Take a It wasn't a cake mix. It was the frosting box. So now this is your homework. When you go to the cake mix aisle, look at the frosting box. You'll see a good picture, and not in the cake mix. I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mimi. So I can identify with these ladies because I'm Salvadorian, right? And we're the majority here in Montgomery County. And my parents were also immigrants, from El Salvador, escaping the war. So I'm very blessed to work with these three amazing women. I just wanted to give you a little bit of statistics on the Latino population. I know Diane touched on it. But 20% of the population here in Montgomery County are Latinos, which is twice as much as the Latino population in the state of Maryland. So we are the majority here, and the reason why I picked to continue to live in Montgomery County and raise my kids in Montgomery County is because our diverse population is so important. Immigration is not just a Latino issue, it crosses borders. So, we have a lot of people that are dealing with the same issue and not necessarily just the Latino population. Sometimes that's a misconception that it's just in our Latino population, which is not true. So I just wanted to express that to you guys, and thank you again for having us here. And I think at this point we're going to open it up for questions. So if anybody has any questions, if you could raise your hand and maybe come up here, and we'll take it from there. Yes, ma'am.
It's not a real question, but Diane, you mentioned the Gilchrist Center, and there are several of them in the county. Can you just tell us where they are so people know?
So Diane's question, and she's got such a great name, which is why I adore her so much. Diane's question was, where are the Gilchrist Center locations? So home base is in Wheaton. It is currently in the Wheaton Tower North, which is near Wheaton Plaza. It's located on the 5th floor, and I can get you, I'm sorry, I wish I had brought my brochure. So the Gilchrist Center created also the quick start guides. Have you all seen that? Have we distributed them to you yet? Oh gosh, I'm not doing my job very well. So I'll make sure we get them to you. But we've developed these quick start guides because, like I said, people call the Gilchrist Center for services all across the board. So we've developed this quick start guide that provides the top 3 or 4 resources in the county around key questions such as legal services, childcare, after-school programs, jobs, healthcare. Who do I call to pick up my trash or get a recycling bin, right? So we've developed these quick start guides. It's available in 7 different languages. It's actually a very beautiful brochure. You can download it off the Gilchrist Center website, but if you would like some, contact me. We have plenty, and we will get them out to you. So the Wheaton site is our home base. We also have a location in East County, at the East County Community Center. We have a center at the Gaithersburg Library. We are looking, we have some space in Germantown as well. We are looking to expand somewhere down county to the Silver Spring, Tacoma Park, Long Branch area as well.
So this is what it looks like. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but if you go to the website, it's very easy, and it comes in different languages. So you can just go to the website, and it's under Montgomery County, MD.gov, Gilchrist Center, and then you can pick the different language you want, and it's the electronic version of the paper version that Diane was talking about.
Yeah, but if you need them, just contact me and I'll get them out to you. Yeah.
Hi, I'm John, and thank you for your nice presentation. You gave a lot of good percentages of people. I'd like to know, given all the controversy over the 2020 census and counts and designation of citizenship, that sort of thing, how do you keep your counts? Where do you actually get a count? From motor vehicle or taxes or?
That is a wonderful question. Did everybody hear John's question? Yes, okay. So I actually have a meeting with Census tomorrow morning just to talk about this. In the 2010 census, Montgomery County developed complete count committees, and we had one of the highest response rates in the entire nation. We were very proud of that. That is because of the work of the Office of Community Partnerships did before the census came out. We really spent a lot of time building trust with our community members and nonprofit organizations, right? And so when we say that it is okay and it's safe for our residents to respond to a government questionnaire, people felt safe to do so because they trusted us, right? You brought up a really good point. Our office is kind of going through this internal struggle right now because we do want to count all of our residents, right? But in 2010, we could guarantee to our residents that this information would not be shared outside of, the Census Bureau, right? In this climate, we really can't say that at this point, right? So tomorrow we're meeting with a couple of our key nonprofit providers along with the Census Bureau to talk about what strategies we're going to implement, because we do want our residents to be counted, but we also want to keep them safe as well. So I don't have an exact answer for you, but we are aware of that and we're trying to work through that right now.
Hi, my name is Barbara DeVoe. I'm with a group called Do the Most Good in Montgomery County. And one of the things that we've been struggling with over the last year is how we can be more effective in engaging more of our minority populations in civic life and in voting. So you talked about the 60,000 permanent residents who are eligible to naturalize. What, if anything, can be done to, as part of that outreach, to talk about the need for them to naturalize in order to be able to vote, in order to have the voice? So that's the first half. The second half is that we know that some of our lowest turnout precincts, and this is based on voter registration, so these are all citizens, right, are majority minority. So we've got the question of how do we motivate people who are here legally to become citizens so that they can vote, and then when they do become citizens so that they can vote, how do we get them to vote? We've made some inroads, we've done some things with Mimi to try to do voter registration at community events, but we feel like we're just sort of, picking here and there and not doing anything significant. And right, systemic is what we need. So what are the opportunities to engage the county? What are the things that the county is doing about this? We have a year and a half before the next big election, and we would love to be able to do something about enfranchisement.
Yeah. Barbara is not nonpartisan.
I didn't say anything about it.
Yeah. That sounded quite nonpartisan to me. So can I answer that just as part of the citizenship initiative, and I'll pass the mic on? Okay, because I'm sure folks are sick of hearing from me. So what I will say is, I think one of your last comments was, don't feel like you're doing enough, or we're not doing enough.
We're not getting traction.
Yeah.
We're not getting traction.
Yeah, I would disagree there. We are seeing very high rates of folks who are applying for citizenship at rates that we haven't seen in almost ever, right? Voter registration, record numbers, right? So I wouldn't say that we're not gaining traction. I think we are starting to gain a lot of traction. It's just taking a little while to trickle down, right? But it is the relationships that we have with the League of Women Voters and other nonprofit organizations and community leaders like Mimi, who are champions for us and have reach and relationships into these communities. We just have to continue to strengthen those relationships and continue to work those relationships. And that's exactly what we're doing, and we're really relying on our partners to continue to get the word out for us. What was the second part of your question? Did I tackle both of them?
Well, you kind of did. I mean, it's getting people who are qualified to naturalize to do it, and getting people who are already citizens to vote, to engage them in the process of voting.
Yes, and so one of the, I'm going to back up a little bit. So one of the challenges that we've had in reaching out to the 60,000 folks is that we know that there are barriers for folks to apply for citizenship, right? One is misinformation. So we're trying to tackle that by getting out as much information as possible at these citizenship corners, working with USCIS to get materials out to more locations. We're trying to get out as much information and education as we can to people. Some of the other barriers that they experience is the cost of the application, right? The application now is $725, $35, $700, right? Plus. So we've partnered with Casa de Maryland to launch a citizenship scholarship, application scholarship, so that residents can receive about half of those funds subsidized through our partnership with Casa de Maryland. So we're trying everything that we can to break down these barriers and continue to build these relationships and reach out to folks.
Just before we continue, I just wanted to highlight that Josephine, for our community liaison for African American community, is here. You want to stand up, sir, so you can meet you, Josephine. And she's also the program manager for the East County Gilchrist Center. And we got saved by the bell because she had some Gilchrist brochures. So they're in the back table for you guys. So thank you, Josephine. I saw you and I'm like, she'll take care of us. So thank you.
Do you want to say something, Josephine, about the African community that you're a liaison to?
Well, actually, if I may, we have our own very legal representative here who actually handles all our immigration outreach. So if I may ask
You see me travel like a family here, right? Yeah. Talk about partnerships.
bring one with one friend.
Extended family here.
Hello everyone, how are you? I'm Fatmata Berry. I am an immigration attorney here in the area. I'm also a special ed attorney and advocate. So I sat back, listened to some stuff, and part of what I've done a lot, and we've done in the community, is try to do the outreach you're talking about getting people out to vote. And one of the greatest, I think, failures we have or progress we need to make is reaching out to the communities that we need to come out to vote, right? So people can be registered to vote, but if there's no motivation to come out to vote, you don't come out to vote. So in other words, if those who either are running for office or have any interest in getting votes don't go to the communities that should come out to vote, most of the time they don't come out to vote. So I think one of the greatest things that probably needs to change is the idea of outreach and encouraging people and making them feel that they're part of the electoral process and that the issues that you want addressed actually pertains to those communities. So that means talking to the communities. That means engaging the communities themselves as opposed to what we like to say, talking at the community, but rather having a conversation with them and bringing them in and deciding how to reach out to them. And we've done some of that within the African Affairs Advisory Group, the African Immigrant Caucus, and making sure that we go out there. So this past election, there was a lot of activity and this part of the county that didn't really get as much attention in the past. And that helped get out more people. We're not there, not even close to being where you're heading for. And I hear a lot about what you guys do, and it's very exciting. And as far as the immigration issue is concerned, I think a lot of things that would help in getting some of the people out to register to vote or to complete application processes is to diversify how we do the outreach, right? Diversify the communities and the organizations that we partner with, making sure that different communities and different organizations are represented within the partnerships to make sure that when we reach out and when those communities and organizations reach out, they're reaching out to the communities. And man, what you said, I loved Ms. Minnie. Thank you so much.
Can I comment on that? No. Okay. You know, each immigrant community are different. So my advice to you is reach out to them where you find them, which is the faith place. So if you want to reach out to the Muslim community, you don't tell them to come to 7:30 meeting. They'll never come and show up, okay? So, but when you go to them on Sunday school, the one in New Hampshire Avenue, and ask that you wanted to educate the community about the importance of voting, and can we register for vote? You'll get there. So instead of bringing, there was somebody who said, if the kids don't go to school, bring the school to them. It's the same concept. If they don't come to you, you go to them. That's the advice I will give. And we've been so successful. We've registered so many Muslim community because we went to them. They didn't come to us. Education is your passport into integration. Carry your passport with you all the time.
What has been done, or what more can be done? Because we can encourage the immigrants to vote, but what about educating them on the candidates? When they get to the ballots, how do they know what they're looking at or who they're voting for? Are we translating stuff like the guide that the league put out? Do we have a translated version of that?
Stand here. Spanish.
Repeat her question.
Oh, okay. What was the question again?
How do we ensure that not only are we encouraging them to vote, but how are we educating them on the candidates themselves? How do they know about who they're voting for?
So the question is, how do you educate those immigrant people about the candidate? Because remember, back home we don't vote, so we have no idea about voting. We don't. As long as we have food at the table, the government can do whatever they want, okay? So don't come to me and tell me, I want to educate you about the candidate, okay? So what we've been doing now with I serve on the Grant Center Committee. So we've been going to the community and then have a meet and greet. So once again, you reach out to them at their place. They don't come to 7:30 meeting. So when we will pick up a leader from the community and we'll ask that leader that they invite those candidates, and those candidates will come to their home. They also love food, okay? So you tell them to come and no food, they're not gonna show up. They don't care. They don't read. Honestly, that's true. They don't read anything about the candidate. But if the candidate can tell them and can speak to them face to face, then they're gonna vote for you. So what my recommendation, what is it? Number one, reach out to them at their place. Don't expect them to come to you. Find the community leaders in those communities and then ask them to hold a meet and greet. Don't ask them for fundraising because they don't have money. Most of the people don't have money. But your goal is to educate them about the candidate. And we've been very successful in the Muslim community doing that.
And let me just also plug the League of Women Voters. They put out their voter guide in Spanish, and I sent it to 5 of my friends, and they sent it to their entire family. So it is really up to us to encourage us being folks who are already a part of the process, right? Like Mimi said, if you have a meeting at 7:30, the immigrant community may not show up, not because they don't realize the importance of it, but because there's a cultural difference, right? You have to understand that a lot of our community members come from countries where governments are broken or corrupt, right? And so they don't engage with government. So when they come to Montgomery County, the last thing that they want to do is engage with Montgomery County, right? Even though we're saying, oh, we're safe, we're creating this welcoming community, right? They don't engage because it's not a part of their the culture, right? So there's a very big cultural difference. So going to folks where they are. So in
faith communities. Grocery stores are also incredibly powerful. If you all have seen any of the grocery stores like H Mart or Mega Mart on the weekends, candidates have started to realize that. So when you looked at the campaign trail, folks were standing outside of these grocery stores with their materials in Spanish and Korean, right? So meeting the community where they are, because there's a cultural difference there, is incredibly important. And it's important and incumbent upon us who are I don't like the term insiders, but folks who are used to being a part of this process to continue to push our leadership and candidates.
And just to echo what Diane said, in the Latino population, trust is a big factor. So if you build that trust, then the rest will follow. And it's with us, it's word of mouth. Like, I have a lot of aunts, uncles, and all of that. And so they'll ask for like my advice. Like when they were, some candidates were running, from the Montgomery County election. I would get calls from family members, hey, so what do you think of this person? And, and so word of mouth, you have to build that trust. You have to meet with them at their level and let them know that you're engaging, not just because you're running as a candidate, because you care and you want change. Because I think with what we're living nowadays, I think the Latino community is in uproar because they're seeing the domino effect it's having on their family members, on them personally. So they're ready to make a change, but you just have to meet them at their level and build that trust. Because without that trust, there's no foundation. So that would be my advice, is just to go out there and meet with them and engage.
Claudia, I saw in the paper the other day kind of the disturbing report that the Latino population, the education, that the students are not performing like they have been before. And do you have anything to say about that? Because I don't like to see it going down. We say education is really the factor today, that will help everybody. What do you think has caused that?
It's funny that you asked that. I was attending a Latino youth forum. I attended like 2 days ago with Identity. And the truth is that the Latino population, the education isn't really going down. We've keep like slowly creeping up the numbers. What's happened lately is in our Latino community, we've seen a lot of people stop going to school because of the fear factor, because their parents might not be documented. And so what happens is they're so fearful to send their kids home because they don't know if their parents are going to be home when they get home from school. So in the forum, we talked about the separation of family, and it is affecting our Latino community. But we're hoping to work on that, and we're starting a movement with Identity to work on that, because that's the fear factor that's going across, where these kids don't know if their parents are going to get picked up at the grocery store waiting for the bus. So their parents are letting these kids stay home, and so you see a lot of absentees because of that. So it's something that's going around. We know about it. We're trying to proactively help these families understand different things that they can do. Reality is, though, if their parents get picked up, they're left with nobody, and they'll be in the foster care, and it's a really sad situation. And these kids, sometimes even U.S.-born kids that have rights to services, the parents aren't going to take those services because they're fearful that the government will know where they live and they'll get picked up. So it's something that we're aware of, and we're trying to work, and people are very passionate about it. But the truth is that Latino students in MCPS, they're being looked at, and they're really trying to help these families prepare for the worst. They're updating their information, just in case the parents do get picked up.
We have to have conversations with these parents about putting family safety planning in place. What happens if, we're having conversations with parents about putting family safety plans in place. right? So what happens when your child comes home and you are not there, right? What does a child do then? We're having to increase outreach with HHS to recruit foster parents, because the reality is we're going to need foster parents, right? So it's a very scary time. So parents are not, and some parents are not sending their children to school because they're scared that ICE will pick them up outside of the schools, because that's happened in other jurisdictions. It's a very scary time. So I just wanted to add to that.
And so here's, I took a picture of the graph, just so you know. So in 2017, 22.4 Hispanic women were able to obtain their bachelor's degree, which in prior years, like in 2010, which it was 16.8. So we're seeing a little bit of increase. Of course, we would want to see more, but slowly but surely we're getting there. And the Hispanic men in 2017, 15% were able to obtain their bachelor's degree, where in 2010 it was 10.8. So we are slowly but surely getting up there. There's a lot of work to do, and there's a lot of us that are starting a movement to help this population.
I saw her hand first, then we'll come over to you.
Do you have data on how prevalent the problem is of parents being picked up during the day, people being picked up during the day at grocery stores and different places, workplaces?
I'm sorry, what was the first part of your question?
You have data.
Data on how prevalent that actually is.
Is it happening?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So in Montgomery County, if the chief of police were here, he would say that ICE is not a fan of Montgomery County because we're not very friendly with ICE. So, knock on wood, our officers don't cooperate with ICE, only except in very limited cases of violent crimes, right? And so ICE officers don't walk around in Montgomery County like they do in other jurisdictions. So we're not really hearing stories of folks getting picked up outside of grocery stores or at the school systems, but it is happening in other jurisdictions. So our residents are worried that is going to happen here, not realizing that this jurisdiction functions a little bit differently than other jurisdictions do. You hear stories of ICE agents outside of food shelters, right? And then that's plastered all over the news. Well, then it has a domino effect where our community, because the current administration works on fear, right? So they're instilling fear in our communities. So they hear a story of ICE agents in Northern Virginia outside of food shelters and picking up folks. And so that spreads fear across our communities. So what in Montgomery County, it has not been the case. When folks are getting picked up, typically it's because they have a deportation order that ICE agents are serving folks. In a few instances, they've been picked up at our jails because they already had a deportation order and were arrested for something else. Maya, do you want to add on that? Because I know Ayuda's at the forefront of that.
So just to piggyback a bit on what Diane was saying, we're lucky here that in Montgomery County, like she mentioned, police doesn't cooperate with ICE. There's actually 3 counties in Maryland that have a partner where the police has a partnership with ICE. It's called 287G jurisdictions, and it's Frederick County, it's Harford County, and it's Anne Arundel County, which pretty much is if an individual gets stopped pulled over by a police officer, then the police, for any valid reason, the police has the right to ask for that person's immigration status. So there's a lot of fear in that community, in those counties in specific. But again, because misinformation happens, there's a lot of widespread fear in Maryland in general. We have seen and heard of other partners or nonprofits or organizations where they have seen ICE picking up people from courthouses, unfortunately, that is happening across Maryland, whether that person is the perpetrator or the victim, unfortunately. There's been a widespread county-wide survey by the Maryland Access to Justice Commission that I'm a member of, that have just compiled data on that, and the data is still being analyzed, but unfortunately we have seen that in the courthouses, whether it's the victim or the perpetrator.
And so, one of the things that we have to worry about is not just in our jurisdiction, but, our residents work in other jurisdictions. They have family members in other jurisdictions. So if our resident goes across into Northern Virginia or Prince George's County or in DC and gets stopped, and that jurisdiction happens to cooperate with ICE, then the resident would most likely get picked up, right? So we have a hotline in partnership with Casa de Maryland, so that if somebody does get picked up, they just call that hotline, and the family members can call that hotline to report, to try to find their family members, where it's at. But yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sort of, it was the same question, but how is the current status of what's going on with DACA students? How is that affecting the communities? And the kids?
We'll share the mic with
So that's a huge impact, unfortunately, to our young members of our community and members of the years. So that's definitely affected their opportunities on, continuing education or on possible future employment. However, so there's a lot of fear in that sense, but luckily, recently there have been injunctions in other states where they put a stop onto the termination on deferred action to childhood arrivals, which means that individuals who already had DACA, they can continue to renew their DACA status until this litigation is going on. Unfortunately, that means that no new DACA registrations are available. So somebody who may have qualified for DACA, unfortunately, they're unable to apply for DACA status. So, it's effective, from the individual who has DACA to the to the entire family members, because maybe that person, was trying to get another job or different status, or different employment, or wanted to continue going to school, but, because there's been so much going on around that, that's also caused a lot of fear and, frustration and a lot of, loss in economic possibilities for these individuals and families.
Assuming that two of you are working on the transition team, I'm assuming the Office of Community Partnerships will be maintained in the new administration. Has he given you any idea?
Well, funny that you would say that. So I'm not going to answer for Mark, but we are, the inauguration won't happen until December the 3rd. I think Mark sees value in the work that our office has done. I think it is a good omen that our office is in charge of these listening sessions. And he was quite impressed at the first session on Saturday. Thank you for being there. So I encourage all of you, if you find value in whatever it is, greener communities, the Office of Community Partnerships, give that feedback at the public listening sessions that is posted on the transition website. You can also give feedback on that website. There's a form for you to fill out as to what your priorities are. And we are, the transition team is putting together all of that information in a report that will be released at the beginning of next year. So the more that you weigh in on what is important to you, he's really in like a listening mode right now. Yeah.
Do you wanna?
Was that a very diplomatic answer? Okay.
So on November 27th, the next lesson session will be in Olney Elementary School. No.
27th is here in East County.
Oh.
So at the East County Community Center, Recreation Center, right down the road. That's on the 27th, and Olney is the 29th.
The 29th. So I encourage you to come because I'll be there. Okay, and I'll make sure he listens to you.
Are you making Buffalo?
I'll make it.
No pressure.
Mimi, this question is for you. You express the contradiction in the way women are viewed. Oops. For example, in Saudi Arabia, and the contradiction is, on the one hand, religion, the Quran says one thing about women, and the government says something else about women's status. Do you see a way that that's going to be resolved, or what kind of a future do you see for women?
I think hopefully things will change because, as you've heard, that the Saudi woman can drive now. Can you believe that? But I was laughing when they said, "Oh, they're so excited about driving." I said, "I wish I have a chauffeur," you know. I don't know whether that really giving a right to her or not. But I'm all about empowering Muslim women, because if you give the Muslim woman their wings, they will fly. So it's still going to be a long time because the government is mainly man. So it's not, there's not too many women in the government that they can make decisions. But hopefully they are getting education now. And the fact that the Saudi woman can drive now, it's a great accomplishment for them, even though I wish I would have. I mean, I actually envy them because they have a cook, they have a cleaning, they have a, you know, I mean, she's living a very comfortable life. But for her, it wasn't, yeah. So, but yeah, hopefully we're moving forward. A lot of our presidents and government elected officials are listening to us because the woman movement is everywhere. It's not just here, it's everywhere.
So the women's movement is strong in Saudi Arabia?
The women's movement is strong because the first one who tried to rally, I mean, he tried to drive and she was insisting, she was whipped and she was, you know, the punishment there is really severe. I mean, if you steal, they cut your hand. In Saudi Arabia especially, well, there is nothing in the Quran, it says that, remember? There's nothing in the Quran. So at the time of prayer in Saudi Arabia, when it's called for prayer time, all the stores close down. Nobody in the mall, everybody. And if you're walking in the street, the police will whip you. And so you go to pray. So I wouldn't say Saudi Arabia is an example of, you know, even though it's the Holy Land, but I would not say that's the model of Muslim countries. In Egypt, we're free. I mean, you know, you have the right to wear the hijab. You know, if you don't want to wear it, it's your choice. And it's true in the Quran, it's your choice. In Saudi Arabia, and I also wanted to tell you, this black clothes that they wear, it's not written in the Quran that you do that. In the Quran is written, you cover, it's about modesty. You cover your hair, you wear long clothes, and just be modest. And why? Because they want to protect the woman from the man. So the men will not be distracted of how you look or, you know, or what you're doing. So they wanted the men to respect the woman and her intellectually. So I don't know if that has to do, I mean, I don't agree with that anyway. But I am, they call me, you're not the typical Muslim woman. So, well, here it is, you know. So it's different. So, but I would not take what Saudi Arabia does as a model for the Muslim woman.
With reporters from the Washington Post.
So Claudia or Maya, I know that many, like 200,000 El Salvadorians are in Montgomery County under temporary protective status, as are some other folks from a few other countries. What is happening with them, and what do you see happening with them? Temporary protective status.
So Diane is well prepared. She has the most up-to-date status information on Montgomery County. So there's currently over 43,000 individuals who has temporary protective status here in Montgomery County. That includes El Salvador, Haiti, and Honduras. That's only El Salvador. There's over 2,000 from Haiti, and from Honduras is almost 8,000. So as you guys all know, temporary protective status has ended, which means that individuals who have this status only have a limited amount of time to go back to their home countries. So what we're doing at Ayuda and at other nonprofit organizations or organizations who work with our immigrant community is we're encouraging these individuals to get a comprehensive immigration legal screening. That means sit down with an experienced immigration attorney to assess whether there's any other forms of potential relief that they may have. A lot of these individuals have been here for several years, may have family members who are U.S. citizens and who can potentially apply for them, who have maybe unfortunately been victims of certain crimes, who may, which means that they may have another option to stabilize their immigration legal status. So yes, it's true, it's ending. That means they have to go back to their country of origin, but I mean, realistically, that's not possible, as we all know that. So we're encouraging these individuals to come to Ayuda, go to other organizations, get a full immigration legal service screening to see if there's any other form of relief that they may that they didn't have before, or that maybe they missed because they just got used to extending their TPS status.
So I guess from the community side, what I'm seeing and hearing is that these people, because you know the TPS has ended, if they're homeowners, they're starting to sell their things. So it's going to be a domino effect on the society, because they're going to move, they're going to go back home. I mean, it's not ideal for them. These people, some people came here when they were maybe 3 or 4, and they built their life here, and they have kids here. But I personally have a friend that's in that situation, and they're selling their home because they feel like they don't have another choice. You know, the business ended for them, and so it's really sad, because at the end of the day, we're all going to be affected in one way or another. So community-wise, that's kind of what I'm seeing, hearing, and you know, wish there was something else we could do.
Can I just very quickly? Yeah. So folks can get the real idea. There are many of these people who are business owners. So envision. Keep talking about jobs here.
I think you
can
hear you.
Just to go off what Claudia just said, so we could just get an idea. There are many of these people who are business owners. So they have employees. So when you talk about, it's not just protect the immigrants and keep us safe and keep us here, but look at the domino effect that they were just talking about. It's more than just our neighbors are disappearing. It's more than just these kids that grew up here, I will no longer be here. It also equals the economic impact, because you have many people who have built businesses here for the past 20, 30 years. Those businesses are closing, and those employees do not have jobs. So people have to really stop and think beyond just, we don't want to just do whatever for immigrants, but think more to the domino effect of how it affects us and our communities and the people who work for these entrepreneurs and these business owners.
that's actually exactly what I was going to say. You know, when we think about immigration, right, or why, I get asked this all the time, like, why do we create such welcoming communities, right?
And typically some people who push back or say, well, why do we do that? Because, you know, yeah, okay, great, it's this feel-good kind of thing. Is that why you do it? Well, yeah, right, because it is, to some people, the right thing to do. But also, immigrants are major economic drivers. We are contributors. We are educated. We are business owners. We are Office of Community Partnership liaisons. We went to Montgomery College. We pay taxes. We own businesses. We are a part of the community, right? So when you talk about the TPS community, you're talking about folks who have been here, some folks 20, 30 plus years, right, who are business owners. We estimate through estimates from Cardasen that 20% of the construction industry are TPS holders.
So you're now losing 20% of the construction industry workers, right? Like, that is a major economic impact to our community, right? And so you're now, you have mixed status households. So imagine that the person who is the business owner and the homeowner now has to go back to their home country. Well, you now have U.S. citizen-born children and or a spouse or other dependents, right, who are now dependent on the counties and social services, right? And we're going to take a big hit there, right? So it is going to cost more to our social services network to provide support when it comes to food, housing, and basic needs, right? Than it is to keep our economic drivers here and part of the community.
Hi, Blair from Legal Lawyers. I just had a question about housing in Montgomery County and whether we're ahead or behind the curve when it comes to providing efficient and affordable housing, because a lot of these families are, like you said, multi-economic, multi-generational. So is Montgomery County doing enough to make sure that these families can expand throughout the county and not just live all in one? And then when it comes to just the efficient housing as well, like where it's built because of transportation and things like that. So is Montgomery County behind the curve on that or ahead of it?
So that is a wonderful question. Have you, just because you used the phrase behind the curve, have you been to Mark's transition website at all or any of the listening sessions? So no, you haven't? Okay. So he is, he's hired, he just appointed a CAO, Chief Administrative Officer, by the name of Andrew Klein. The press release just went out today, pending council confirmation, of course. He is a budget director from the city of Baltimore, and his thing is outcome budgeting. And what he uses for outcome budgeting is called turn the curve, right? Which is why I was like, oh, was that question planted? And if you go to Mark's website, and during his campaigning, one of the things that he ran on and one of his priorities is affordable housing. Okay, so he's created 7 priority areas that he is looking at turning the curve. Okay, one of those priority areas is affordable housing. So we have a whole entire transition team right now that is meeting around that priority area. We are looking at turning the curve. We're looking at the current trends, right? And we all know that affordable housing is a little difficult to come across right now in Montgomery County, right? I can say that without getting in trouble. But okay, so what we're trying to do is turn the curve, right? And make more housing affordable in Montgomery County and be very smart about our development and developing in different areas of the county as well. So yes, we are looking at that. It is part of his core priorities. It is a priority of the new CAO that's coming in. And if you go to the website, elbridgetransition.com, you can see his priority outcomes. And then there are 3 measurements under each one of those outcomes. And we're creating an entire strategic plan around that. And you can take a look at what's happening on there. So yes, thank you for that question.
Well, I was just going to add to it. I actually serve on that committee for the transition for the affordable, and you're going to have great news from Mark Ellis in fixing that problem. So, all right.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah. My question was, in Montgomery County, is there a center where naturalization ceremonies are performed?
Well, yes, thank you. Oh, yeah. We have, in the past in Montgomery County, we have had very regular citizenship ceremonies. The last one that we had was last year, and I believe it was at the Gaithersburg Library. The way that it works now is that we have to submit our requests to USCIS for the citizenship ceremonies. We've put in 4 requests for last year, only 1 was approved. And we have put in 4 requests for this coming fiscal year, and we have not heard back on any of them yet. So you can see that it's kind of changing in this administration. So securing naturalization ceremonies are a little bit more challenging right now. We hope to have more, and we are having our senators and congressmen who are serving on these citizenship committees press USCIS to do more citizenship naturalization ceremonies in our county. But as of right now, we haven't gotten traction there yet. Sorry, I wish I had better news there.
But there are monthly citizen naturalization ceremonies at Greenbelt, at the courthouse. The League has been invited to register people to vote immediately after they become citizens. But the last few years we had like 44 people. The last few months we've had more like 20 become citizens.
Thank you.
I think the problem isn't the naturalization ceremonies, it's the naturalization process.
Right.
It's now up to like 18 months from the time somebody applies until they even get to meet the person. I mean, they're asking them all the questions.
Yeah.
It's absolutely disgraceful.
$700.
People getting naturalized.
Yes, so we are seeing very many roadblocks and barriers, and we are doing everything that we can to work with our elected officials to advocate for policy changes. But yes, we are seeing more and more roadblocks, and that waiting list is scary for a lot of residents to hear, right? That it's taking a long time, but we gotta keep pushing our folks. Please apply now, because that 18 months could turn into 20, 24 plus months.
My name is David Rosso. I'm a teacher in the county and the MCA board director, union board director. I'm sorry. I want to know what you all think MCPS is doing well to help immigrant families or new families, and what could be done to improve what we are trying to do.
That's a loaded question.
I was a road warrior for 20 years.
I think what they're doing well is they've identified a problem and they want to come together for a solution. I'm part of the Children Fleeing work group, and I work a lot with MCPS. And I know they want to develop a strategy so that all staff members across the board are trained to deal with the situation. And I know we're in planning stations, and I know there's budget issues like everything else. So I think what they're doing well is that they've identified a problem, they know it's there, and they want to address it like the rest of us. What they could do better is execute it. I guess we could all execute it, but that's going to take time and patience. And unfortunately, I think people want immediate action. It's not going to happen that way, but I think their heart's in it, and I think they're trying to take the right steps towards a solution. So I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but I think that, that's pretty much where MCPS is. And we have open communication with the government, with Montgomery County, which is good. So we're all working together to achieve that, that same goal.
I was just going to add to, they are really working with the PTA and engaging the parents and engaging the PTA because they play a big role in that. So the MCC PTA is the umbrella. So through that, they disseminate the information of what to do and what's the right of the children. So they're doing their part as much as they can, but it's a hard problem to deal with. So hopefully we will all be succeeding.
And let me just also add, I love MCPS's model in providing interpretation and translations. I have been touting that model for years. I forgot to mention earlier that I'm also the language access coordinator for the county as well. And they have an incredible unit that manages the interpretation and translation services. And I have been trying to encourage our county to replicate the model that they have. That is phenomenal, how they provide interpretation and translation services. So for those of you that don't know, they have a centralized office that manages all of the interpreters and translators for MCPS, and it is amazing. And I wish that we could replicate that on countywide.
I have actually comment for your question. One semester, I was permitted to sit in ESOL class at Einstein High School. And I came to the United States when I was 14, and first state was Texas, and there was no ESOL program at all. So I was glad to see it, but what I was not very happy was that I think the program should be a little bit more geared for current situation and the living, the learning about America right now. Because, for instance, I sat in one class, they were dealing with, it was I think the second year ESOL class. They were studying Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet. But Shakespeare is hard for even native born Americans. So I was wondering, why can't they make the curriculum more useful? Because when I sat in the class, there was one moment the topic went to the current situation. And I can see the students were all alert. And it could have been a wonderful discussion in English, but it was totally dismissed. And then the other class was, they were doing Greek mythology. I was thinking, why can't we talk about, for instance, the Montgomery County system or the United States government or something, or the things that they have to deal with in their daily life. Because I just thought that what the kids were going through and what they were dealing in class, they were totally disconnected.
That's great feedback. And it's interesting that you brought that up because when we talk about adult English literacy, one of the things that we've started to look at is non-traditional delivery methods of delivery of English classes. And one of the things that has worked really well over these past couple of years that Mikhail, or many of you familiar with Mikhail, is looking at is these non-traditional delivery methods, right? And so providers who have created curriculum around civic engagement and current issues, and not requiring very strict 120 hours, move through a year, move from level to level to level. That's working with our immigrant communities with adult English literacy. So we're having conversations with MCPS and looking at similar, newer, innovative delivery methods, but that is an ongoing conversation. But I'm so glad that you brought that up. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shruti. Can I just add a comment to what Diane said? So I wear multiple hats. I'm also on Mark's transition team, but involved with MCPS work as well. And just to answer, you had great comments to say. MCPS the people, different stakeholders working with MCPS right now are looking at one of the things that we've also discussed in my group that's dealing with families and education is having more workforce that is diverse in schools and making sure that that's part of the curriculum too, so that we can, you know, educate our students about diversity and the variety of cultures that we have.
We have a principal in the audience here. Do you want to say something?
How many minutes?
We were making eye contact earlier.
How many minutes do you have?
I'm sure you've seen it.
Let me just give, my name's Fred Evans. I am an ex-principal. I retired many years ago now, as a matter of fact. My last 7 years, I was principal of Gaithersburg High School from 1993 to 2000. Since then, I'm still involved. I teach at Hood College. I want to give you a statistic, and I understand, didn't see your name.
Keisha, you.
Okay. I moved here in 1970. I won't say my age. And I started my teaching career at Wooten High School when it first opened. Wooten and Magruder High Schools, just give me a little patience here. Wooten and Magruder opened the same year. We were growing. That year we had 100,000 students in the Montgomery County Public Schools. Of that 100,000 students, 91% were Caucasian. About 4% African American, 4 to 5%. And remember, just 12 years before I got here, we fully integrated our schools. We were a segregated school system. That's important in a historical perspective. I retired in 2000. My last year at Gaithersburg High School, we had students from 80 countries, families from 80 countries. This is 18 years ago. 40 different languages that we could count. And it was absolutely wonderful because about 80% of that last graduating class went to college. Either Montgomery College or four-year schools. I'm not saying that to brag, I'm just saying that's the reality. However, countywide again, we had at that point about 125,000 students in the entire school system. The class of 2000 was the last majority white graduating class in Montgomery County Public Schools. That's 18 years ago. I don't say that to be dramatic. I don't say it to be, ooh, it's wonderful, actually. The diversity that we have is wonderful. The issue is, as you get more diverse, what is the correct curriculum? Because someone could say to you, for instance, oh, we're not going to train Esau kids in Shakespeare, in Greek mythology, because they're not, I'm not saying this, because they're not sharp enough, not smart. So the development of curriculum is a very, very, very complex thing, especially as you get more diverse. And I don't have to give you that whole long lecture about that. So what I think we do a good job with is that we change with the times, because when I left Wooten High School, I was in the Human Relations Department where we were doing diversity training. And that's when the conflict was between African American and white. In many communities, if you have lived here for a while, you know that. So we've gotten beyond some of that, and now we have other issues. The key point is to continue to discuss it and have forums like this, and don't stop, because it ain't going to go away. And what I appreciate is that we still have a very vital school system that is moving forward. We have our issues, and it will continue to move forward, but keep talking.
Right.
Keep talking. Mark he's an elementary teacher.
Yes.
About 20 or whatever years, I don't know.
So 12 years.
12, okay. So, you know, he understands the issue. I'm going to say one more thing, I'm sorry. You brought it up.
Well,
yeah, I took more than 10 minutes, right?
No, please, no.
My last one is, My grandmother's name was Milica Wonkovich. Milica was born here in the United States. Her parents came from, some of you heard this story, her grandparents came from whatever it was called then, Yugoslavia, Serbian. I'm Serbian ethnic. Milica was born here. What's that make her? A citizen. Right? Her parents were legal. Okay. That was in the late 1897 she was born. Fast forward, she meets Steve Bakich. He's an immigrant, comes through Ellis Island, ends up in southwestern Pennsylvania, and becomes a coal miner, of course. And they get married. However, before she married him, she had to give up her citizenship. Huh? In the United States? Really? Look it up.
Yes.
The Expatriation Act of 1907. If a woman married a man who was not legal, or not a citizen, and it only affected certain countries because they were getting worried about too many southern Slavs coming over, the woman had to give up her citizenship to marry him. It didn't work in the reverse. That's our United States Congress. It did not work in the reverse. When I realized, I said to my mother one day, I was a history major in college, I said, we call her Bubba, I said, why does Bubba have immigration papers? You said she was born here. And she told me the story. She got her citizenship back 6 months after he got his.
Thank you, Fred. That was an awesome
Sorry. Some things never change.
Now you know why she works the mic at our listening
Now you know why.
So probably wrap it up. Any more questions? Take any.
Do we have one more question? I think we have time for like maybe one more question. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to ask really quickly about, last year they tried to get the SAFE Act in the state of Maryland. It did not pass. So now in Montgomery County, we're trying to get the Trust Act. Are any of you involved in getting, I feel like it's kind of stalled.
So what are they?
So Casa to Maryland, yes, is still in conversations with
The council.
yes, the council, and I'm pretty sure that they will continue those conversations with the new administration.
So what are they? The SAFE and the-
It's a coalition. So we have a coalition right now.
What are they?
So we have a coalition right now with CASA and many of us, myself with the African Immigrant Caucus and other groups who are working on getting this through the county council. And
sorry, very quickly, a couple folks didn't know what it was.
okay, the Trust Act is basically, the initial Trust Act was proposed at the state level. It didn't pass. So what it was a response to the executive order from the White House, basically saying if the police stop you, they have the right to ask you for your papers, and quote unquote, if they think you're a danger, they can detain you. So it's sort of abstract, right? So the Trust Act was done here in Maryland with the hope that we can pass it at the state level and make it sort of statewide. It didn't pass. It didn't pass the first time. It was changed this past session to something else. It still didn't pass. So we are trying to get it to be done in the county itself to make sure that regardless of what we say we want to do, but we want to make it a policy into a law, basically, in Montgomery County, that the police, if they pull you over, they don't have this thing that you do to ask you for your papers and just give you a ticket if you need to have a ticket. So that's about it, but we're working on it. There's a hearing on, I don't know the top of my head, but if you go to Montgomery County Council, there's a hearing coming up where if folks want to testify, they can sign up to testify in support of the Trust Act.
And also have your voices heard at these listening sessions and feedback on the website as well, if that is something that you support. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for having us here today. And to show our gratitude, we have a little token of appreciation for our guests, Claudia, Diane,
Thank you.
Maya, and Mimi. And Mimi, yours is slightly different because you already have what they are getting.